Hi, I am Rosa from School of Hard Knocks in Scotland, and my colleague Shan, who's based in Wales, and I have put together this session, and we're talking to you about smoking and drinking, and perhaps breaking some of the bad habits that we've got relating to both smoking and drinking. Both smoking and drinking are legal, and they're both things that most of us do or have done, particularly drinking alcohol. But those of us that do have a habit of drinking alcohol or smoking cigarettes are maybe finding that we've picked up a bit more of that habit during lockdown. For a start, nobody knows what day it is anymore. So weekend drinking has, for many people, turned into everyday drinking, and we haven't necessarily got as much to get up for in the morning, as well as going through a bit of stress and having a hard time at the moment. So perhaps we're taking part in those habits of drinking and smoking more than we would usually. Shan and I are going to tell you a little bit about the science and psychology of smoking and drinking, and about how we can maybe cut down on both or either of those that we might need to.
Most of us have the odd bad habit, and quite often these just form part of a normal, balanced, everyday life, and we can engage in them moderately. Now, at the moment, life just isn't that normal, and there is a risk that our bad habits might start to increase and creep up on us without us even realising. So if we think about the situation that we're all facing now, we have a lot more anxiety around, a lot more uncertainty about what's going to happen next and when it's going to happen. We're spending potentially a lot more time at home. We might be finding it more difficult to sleep. We might be a little bit bored of all of this by now, which all ramps up the kind of pressure and the stresses that we're feeling. So we're perhaps more likely to go and have an extra cigarette or two or three or four, or to perhaps have that glass of wine or two or three or four to help us wind down and relax, or to help us sleep better, or because we've deserved it, because this is difficult for all of us right now. Now, that is completely understandable, but actually has the potential to cause us lots of problems. So it's important that we start to recognise that as soon as we can and get on top of it.
Smoking is harmful for your whole body, not just your lungs, but we'll talk about them in a minute. Smoking is known to cause at least 15 different types of cancer, including mouth, nose, bowel, leukemia, ovarian cancer, breast cancer. Smoking can actually lead to you becoming blind. It's linked to early menopause, to heart disease, high cholesterol, and poor immune systems. In terms of your lungs, a heavy smoker's lungs will actually turn black due to all of the tar that has blocked them up. Smoking is known to cause at least 7 in 10 of all lung cancers in the UK, which is huge. Lung cancer is one of the most common cancers in the UK. There are a number of physical risks associated with overconsumption of alcohol. You can damage your liver, causing fatty liver, alcoholic hepatitis, cirrhosis, amongst other disorders. You can harm your heart and make yourself more likely to have a stroke, high blood pressure, or irregular heartbeats. Alcohol is associated with a number of different cancers, including head and neck, liver, of course. It can increase your risk of getting breast cancer, colorectal cancer, and bowel cancer. Small amounts of alcohol can be okay, but overconsumption can really increase your risk of all these types of disorder.
Excessive use of alcohol can cause as much harm to our mind as it can to our body, and comes with a whole host of psychological risks. So some examples are things like impulsivity. So we might be more likely to do things without thinking about them that we might later come to regret. It makes memory more difficult, both short term and with repeated use in the long term as well. It can make focusing more difficult, and our ability to concentrate can be impaired. But most importantly of all, it has a massively negative impact on our mood. Now, quite often we have a drink because it changes the way we feel. It can make us feel more relaxed or more confident, and potentially for a little while it can make us feel happier. But alcohol is a depressant, so in the long term, it can make all those kind of negative feelings that we might be experiencing much, much worse.
So, when it comes to smoking, what amount of tobacco smoke is healthy? What does healthy look like? Well, no surprises here. No amount of tobacco smoke is healthy or safe. It's better not to smoke whatsoever at all. Of course, the more you smoke, the higher the risks are of developing smoking related diseases. So smoking less is better, but even smoking 1 cigarette per day can greatly increase your risk of dying younger than you would do otherwise. So you want to get to the point of not smoking whatsoever. Even passive smoking is quite harmful to your body or the body of your children or your partners. Children who are exposed to smoke in the household and are inhaling that passively are more at risk of getting asthma and other respiratory problems. Partners or adults that are long-term exposed to smoke in their household are 20 to 30% more likely to get lung cancer. So even small amounts of smoke really are harmful for your body. The good news, though, is that you can actually get rid of that risk. The minute that you stop smoking, you reduce your risk of smoking-related diseases. It is that immediate. And actually, when we find somebody who's been a really heavy smoker, it doesn't matter how heavy a smoker, after 30 years of no cigarettes, their risk of lung cancer will be the same as a person who hasn't smoked. So you can almost entirely repair your own lungs, and it's as simple as stopping smoking. By stopping smoking, you can also reduce the risk of the people in your household who are inhaling your smoke passively. Their lungs will start to repair themselves as well. So no amount is a healthy amount to smoke, but you can undo a great deal of the damage done to your lungs by giving up. The younger and sooner you give up, the easier and earlier your lungs can repair themselves.
So how much is too much? Now, the guidelines for safe drinking is 14 units per week, and that's the same for men and for women. Most of us probably work in glasses rather than units. So what I want to do is show you how much a unit of alcohol is in a glass. So if we're drinking spirits, then a unit of alcohol looks a bit like this. And if we're drinking wine, then a unit looks something like this. And if we're drinking cider or beer, then it's going to look something a little bit like this. So having one drink is not always the same as having 1 unit. Quite often when we're having a glass of wine or a pint, we're actually consuming more than 1 unit of alcohol.
If you think you need to reduce your drinking, then there are a number of things you can do. First thing is to monitor your drinking, which you can do either through a diary or by downloading an app. There are plenty for you to choose from. Now, this not only lets you see how much you're drinking currently, but allows you to track your progress and to make sure that your reduction is sustainable and safe. So some other things you might want to try is to set yourself some limits. So try planning your drinking for the week. Try delaying the time that you start. So if you find it difficult to stop drinking once you've had that first one, then maybe have that first one later. So rather than having drink number 1 at 6 p.m, you have it at 7 p.m. And try to include 2 to 3 alcohol-free days. Now with this, it is important to know that if you start to feel like you're experiencing withdrawal symptoms and that you may have a dependency on alcohol, then you should seek medical advice before you go any further with that. Finally, think about what and where you're drinking. So not all alcoholic beverages are created equal. Some have more alcohol in them than others. So if you're trying to reduce the number of units you consume, have a think about the strength of the drink that you're opting for. And also think about where you're drinking. So a lot of alcohol use, particularly at home, can be automatic. So we tend to have the same spot on the sofa that we always sit and the same table to put our drink on, and we can start to reach for it without even being aware that we're doing it. So try to sit somewhere else, or change where you put your drink, or change where you keep your alcohol, so that when you do have that drink, you're more aware of it and you're less likely to consume alcohol without really realising it.
Now for some ideas of some healthy habits that you could introduce to try and cut down on some of these substances that we now know are quite bad for us. So, ideas of what to do instead. What healthier habits can we introduce instead? If your family or the people you live with are having a drink at a certain time of day and you want to cut down, you can still have one, but just without the alcohol. Rather than have nothing, have a soft drink that you like, add ice and lemon, or have some sparkling water, so it still feels like you're having that treat of an evening or whenever it might be. If you feel that need for a cigarette, have a piece of fruit. I'm yet to master this, but try something new like learning how to juggle. Or for perhaps a simpler option, you could, if you need a cigarette or a drink or you feel that need, put a couple of pieces in a jigsaw. Amazing how relaxing that can be and how much of your concentration it can take up. Or try doing something like a crossword. You should work out what works for you. So find something that is genuinely gonna use your concentration and distract you a little bit. Something that you enjoy and something that you can perhaps get better at as well. Find yourself healthy new habits and focus on them, and try and just cut back or give up on the smoking, and the same with the drinking.